and welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk About It. I am back here in Seattle with the lovely Kitt Bender.
I'm back. Watch out.
You are back. Last episode that we were together on was the gun violence episode. Do you remember that?
I do. I have very vivid memories of that. That was one of the more interesting conversations I've had with another human.
I agree. I've had many conversations with people after that episode, and I was very, very impressed with your level of not only like insight and good open questions, but also like the little bits of sass you had. I was like there, like, because if I had let a little bit of sass, it would have just all been sass.
Right. If you would have started to unscrew it, you were a soda pop that had been shaken up, and you couldn't unscrew that lid too much.
I'm just a little passionate, so I had to like really calm it down, you know? Yeah. So I'm really thankful I had you for that episode and for that conversation.
What I kept on thinking afterwards was all the little sassy things I wish I would have said.
Me too.
And so I was like, man, if I could go back.
Yeah. But then the conversation would have been a very different one.
It would have been an incredibly different one. It was very interesting.
I agree.
Very interesting. So
very interesting.
And insightful.
Yeah, definitely. And hopefully we're going to have another very interesting, insightful episode and conversation here today. We're doing like a little bit of like a follow-up from, what was that episode? Like our second
or third?
Yeah. Second or third episode on male-female friendships.
It was 2017, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, second, third.
Last year. I really don't like when people do that.
You're not the kind of person that on January 1st says, I haven't had a shower since last year. And then chuckles. And then everyone kind of wants to punch them.
That's more of like a dad joke Derek would make, and I would roll my eyes at.
Yeah.
Yeah,
sounds about right.
Occasionally they get laughs, but then it's like too much. Like I don't want to, give him too much positive reinforcement with it. He's got to question the quantity of the dad joke sometimes to make sure that the quality is still up there.
Right. So even the good ones, you got to just like roll your eyes at sometimes.
Yeah,
just so that he thinks twice and says, "Is this worth it?"
Yes. And you know Derek pretty well.
Yeah.
Derek was on that episode with us, but he's not here today. But we will be talking a little bit more about male-female friendships. We had something come up right after that episode. So I got a text from a guy that I was friends with, and it was a very interesting message. And we've kind of been sitting on it and trying to figure out when to share this story. And then I also talked to him to like process everything together.
Okay.
And that went really well, and he's not here today to talk with us about it. We'll just call him Tom.
Okay. Tom, in air quotes.
Yeah, we'll just call him Tom. Isn't going to talk with us today, but I did get, permission from him to kind of share some of our conversation and his journey with all this. So that and a situation that came up in Vegas when I was there that I still haven't told you about, Kitt.
Okay. I've read this text message, but I have no idea what happened in Vegas. Now, apparently it was supposed to stay there, but we're going to leak it out here.
We're going to process it because there's some substance to it. And then we also have some letters from you guys too that we'll go through, and kind of just getting into like the different area of male-female friendships that have to do with disclosure, of when you disclose to a friend of the opposite sex, heterosexual, again, that like when is the appropriate time for that? When are you being deceitful or misleading because you haven't disclosed? And so both my situations with Tom and Vegas had to do with that.
So you got this message from Tom out of the blue?
I got this message from Tom shortly after our episode aired. And so Tom, for some backstory here, I met Tom before going on the show. We met at the Solstice Festival thing here in Seattle and Fremont. And I was single and was just kind of like wanting to be open and making a bunch of new friends. And he was like this guy, he had a van And it was the Solstice Festival, okay? So I didn't really think twice. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, he was with a big group of people, and they were all super, super friendly. And so me and my girlfriend ended up hanging out with them for the whole festival. And he just had such good, like, positive vibes to him. Like, was just a very, like, outgoing, fun person. Like, I introduced him to Colin, I believe, at some point that weekend, because I was like, Colin was on the white privilege episode, and is a super close friend as well. And I was just like, Colin, like, yeah, you should really meet this guy, Tom, like my new friend, like he's super cool. And so I believe that they met briefly, and we like I also initially met him out. Whoa, I didn't even remember this.
So you had met him before the Solstice Festival?
It was during that weekend, but I actually met him out dancing.
Okay.
I totally forgot about that.
So this was just kind of a random meeting.
And then I had got his info, the parade and stuff was happening the next day. And so we were texting, you know, like, oh, where are you at? Oh, I'm over here, whatever. And we had met up and got together. But no, I'd actually met him the night before. And this was where I knew, I was like, he just has such good positive, like, energy to him. Like, when I go out dancing, I don't dance with people. Like, I dance in my own space.
Okay.
I don't even know really how to physically dance with someone else. So I'm just like in my own little world. And like guys always try to come up and like, you know, make it a thing. And I'm like, you know, you can dance right there and I'll dance right here. Like, and we'll have a great time.
Right. You just have a little bubble around you.
Yeah. And this was at Numos in Capitol Hill. And so we were there dancing. It was, I want to say it was like a Justin Bieber, Justin Timberlake DJ night, where it was like they go back and forth playing those two artists.
Which I'm a little jealous of that one, actually. That would have been good.
Yes.
We went to Taylor Swift versus Katy Perry.
Yes. That was around my birthday.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. And so I was like dancing with my girlfriends, you know, and just bumped into him and his group of friends. And they were just all so cool. And we just had like such a fun time all dancing with each other. And we were there till close, and it was just super fun. There wasn't anything like sexual with it, and I was just like, he wasn't pursuing that, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And so we, you know, then got together at the Solstice thing, and it was a great time. And we were definitely like flirty, but we were just like friends. Like, neither one of us made a move on anything. From what I knew, he was single, I was single, and then he went back because he was actually just visiting from California. And we like FaceTimed a few times, and again, just all very like friendly. And then I went on the show, and, you know, he had texted me, I think once, being like, congratulations, like, you know, whatever. And then, yeah, I hadn't really talked to him until after that episode aired. And then I got a text from him.
Okay. So we're hearing this text.
Yes.
From Tom.
I got the receipts.
Man. See, this is when it's good, when those voice read messages are sometimes you need a record.
You do.
It's better just to be able to have that.
I'm a fan of the voice messages, though, for like more logistical things. So I want to take a quick break to share with you guys about Quip. When it comes to your health, brushing your teeth is one of the most important parts of your day, and Quip knows that. They've combined dentistry and design to make a better electric toothbrush. Quip is the new electric toothbrush that packs just the right amount of vibrations into a slimmer design at a fraction of the cost of bulkier traditional electric brushes. And guided pulses alert you when to switch sides. Quip also comes with a mount that suctions right to your mirror and unsticks to use as a cover for hygienic travel anywhere, whether it's going in your gym bag or your carry-on. And because the thing that cleans your mouth should also be clean, Quip subscription plan refreshes your brush on a dentist-recommended schedule, delivering new brush heads every 3 months for just $5, including free shipping worldwide. Quip is backed by a network of over 10,000 dental professionals, including dentists, hygienists, and dental students. Most toothbrushes don't get named one of Time Magazine's best inventions of the year, but Quip did. Find out for yourself why. Quip starts at just $25, and if you go to getquip.com/Taylor right now, you'll get your first refill pack free with a Quip electric toothbrush. That's your first refill pack free at getquip.com/Taylor. Spelled GETQUIP.com/Taylor. Now back to the show.
Let's get back to Tom, because otherwise I'll get on a high horse.
Tom's letter. So he texted me and said, Taylor, I hope you are well. Congratulations on getting engaged in the new podcast. Both are so exciting, and it's great to see you happy. I have a question for you that might be of interest to you for your podcast. When we met, I had a girlfriend. I didn't tell you about it because I always hate it when people lead with something like that. I like to have genuine interactions with people without relationships or partners hanging over it. At a certain point, if a person shows real interest in having something more, or if it comes up in conversation, of course it is all right to share. You and I had a great time together, and it certainly didn't cross any boundaries. Do you think we would have had the same kind of genuine interaction if I had shared that? And do you think it is misleading to not disclose something like that? My girlfriend at the time really thought it was. Curious as to your take on the situation.
Okay. Two things that this makes me think of.
Okay.
Thought number one. I think it's really important information that you guys met before the Solstice Festival.
Yeah?
I do. Because if this all happened on a first meeting, I think that the whole situation has a slightly different angle than the fact that the Solstice party, that whole hangout, even though it wasn't even just two people, it was a group.
Yes.
The thing was premeditated by both parties. It wasn't just we're going to go with the flow and see where the night goes, okay? So my first question to you is, when you first exchanged info and you were like going to hang out, how much of that was, I really like this group and he's kind of my point person for the group? And how much of that was, he seems really cool, I'd like to get to know him, and this is maybe a context so that I can do that?
No, it was more like, I've never been to the Solstice Festival before, and his whole group of people were like super welcoming and super fun, and he was the one that was kind of like organizing for their group. And we had also just had, I think, the most like connection from other people in that group. Like we definitely like hit it off and like got along well. So it was kind of like, oh, why are you in town? Oh, we're in town for the Solstice thing. And oh, like, yeah, we're going to be there. And oh, I really wanted to go and wasn't sure like what's going on with it. Yeah, like let's meet up. We should meet up. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll bring my girlfriends and we'll meet up with you guys.
That's how it felt for you. In your brain, that's what was going on.
For me, that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So option number one was chosen there.
Yes.
My second thought was about this little second to last sentence that he wrote, which was, my girlfriend at the time really thought it was.
Yes.
So if we flip all the way around this and we imagine that we're his girlfriend, how is she looking at this? How is she viewing your guys' interaction? Yeah. What did she know? What did he tell her? We of course have to speculate a little bit, but if she reacted to that, maybe we should think about why. Yeah.
So when I first got the text, I had a few feelings come up.
Okay.
First, I was kind of like surprised because I thought he had been single the whole time. Because even after our interactions here in Seattle, that kind of carried through when he went back to California, and we would FaceTime here and there and like catch up and like have deeper conversations.
So your learning that he had a girlfriend was this text message?
Yes.
Okay.
So I never knew. And again, the solstice thing happens in what? Is that June?
Yeah, summer solstice is June.
Yeah, so it was June, and then it was like after we had small interactions during the show, and that was right before I'd gone on the show. And then, not until this, like 2 months ago, December.
Very interesting.
Okay. Yeah. So I was very shocked. I was like, whoa, what? He had a girlfriend the whole time? And he asked me in the text if I thought that was misleading to not disclose something like that. And I was like, well, kinda. Like, we weren't having a romantic relationship and we weren't pursuing that. But it was still kind of like, after the weekend in Seattle, I would have thought that would have just came up naturally. So I was like surprised that it didn't come up naturally. And then I was kind of sad. I was kind of like, whoa, I thought that we had like this deeper, connection and friendship. And then all the while you didn't feel comfortable to tell me that for some reason, or like she could have been a friend of mine. Like, I'm sure I really liked you, and I'm sure I would have really liked her too. So like now I missed that opportunity kind of, and like to also be a friend to you and be supportive throughout your relationship. And, you know, I'm always a advocate for like talking about things. And, you know, some people always feel like relationship issues are private, but I'm always like, find a friend, talk to a friend about it. Like, don't isolate that to the relationship. And, you know, so I'm like, oh, like I was sad that I wasn't able to be there for him in that sense as well. And so I spoke with Tom. We had a conversation about this, partially because he also then texted me when I was in Vegas and when this whole other situation was coming up. And I was like, whoa, universe doing stuff.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay.
So then I was like, yeah, like I had never got back to Tom and we need to talk.
Yeah.
Like, I want to talk to him about this. Like, I have questions.
Did you at any point feel misled?
I didn't want to pursue a romantic or sexual relationship with him. So it didn't feel misleading in that sense.
Your actions.
Yes.
Did it feel in any way that he was misleading you? Or that, like, and maybe not even trying to speculate his motive, but like, did that feeling get to you where you were like, I thought one thing and I feel like I was led to believe that.
So I felt very deceived.
Okay.
And this is what came up with Vegas as well. But I felt very deceived. And I felt like, you know, in his text, he was like, nothing, our relationship didn't cross any boundaries. And I was like, it didn't. But we were also like kind of flirty with each other. Like, and he's naturally like a pretty flirty person. And I think I sometimes am as well. And I think there's a healthy level of that in our day-to-day interactions with people, regardless of if you're in a relationship or not. Right. But that also depends on what relationship you're in and what you guys consider to be like okay in your relationship. Yes. So,
like when he says no lines were crossed, but like some lines are subjective.
Yes, exactly. Like we would talk about like, you know, oh, I should come like down to California, maybe like, you know, do a camping trip in your van, you know, kind of thing. And so like, I thought that those kinds of things were on the table if I wanted them, you know, and that's, I guess, kind of like testing the boundaries. And I don't know, maybe in some way that would have been okay to do in his relationship. But I guess you're right. There was a little bit of like a misleading, and who knows, some of that could have just been like flirty back and forth banter that we knew wasn't ever really going to happen anyway. So we could throw it out there. I don't know. So I spoke with him and asked him a bunch of these questions. We talked it all through. And the thing that I really love about all this is that it caused him and the girl he was dating at the time to like really hash this out and talk these things through, because he told me after Solstice, when we went back to California, like he told her, you know, she knew about me, but I didn't know about her. And so to me, I was like, well, why
would she know about you?
And why would I not know about her?
That seems backwards.
Yeah. And so I asked, he said that, you know, he told her all about the trip and all the people that he met, and, you know, that he brought me up, and he was like, yeah, I met this girl Taylor, and, you know, she's really cool, and like we hung out, and, you know, like she's a really good friend. And then the show came up, and The Bachelor was airing, and I was on there, and she was going over like to a friend's house, you know, to watch the show with a bunch of people, and Tom said, oh yeah, that my friend Taylor that I told you about is on there. And then she was like, wait, what? And I guess saw, and then she was like, well, you didn't mention that she was like pretty or that she was attractive. And so then it got me and Tom talking about this, like this difficulty with like processing, sharing friends, and then where the attraction piece comes in. Because it was almost like it sounded like was kind of okay with the friendship. But then when she saw what I looked like and, you know, subjectively was like, oh, she's just really pretty, then it sounded like there was more of an issue.
So if it was someone of not consequence in that she didn't see them as an attractive person or see that person is someone that he would be attracted to, she's like, oh, maybe it doesn't matter.
Yeah. I don't know.
Who
So
knows?
that it caused them to have this whole conversation, and about what it looks like for him. Because again, for him in his text, he's like, I like to have these genuine interactions with people that aren't like blurred by this, like, you're taken and I can't talk to you notion. And I was like, I agree with that. I don't think, unless the only time that I lead with that is if some dude is all up in my face and is like, oh, hey, blah, and it's very clear that he's just trying to gauge if he can get my pants or not, that I'm like, yeah, hi, I have a boyfriend, I'm engaged, bye.
You're just trying to dance and hold your fart in. It's all you're trying to do. You're like, I don't need anyone here interrupting my focus. It's helping me stay very centered here.
The fart part that we talked about pre-episode was not in this episode.
It is now.
It is now. There's a whole strategy, dancing and holding your fart in. It'll be another episode.
I've been holding my burps while you're talking so as to not interrupt you, but I haven't had any come up while I'm talking, just so you know.
Yes. So I mean, it caused them to have this whole conversation and talking about, he likes to just go and have genuine interactions with people. And he feels like if that's something that people lead with, that the lines are blurred, I guess, in a way, because it's like, well, I was just trying to get to know you, just be your friend. But I guess if that's what you thought this was, and I guess it could cause some kind of confusion. And I think I feel like I can relate to that in some ways, because I try to get to know people as friends first, always. And so for me, I'm like, even if someone is trying to pursue me, then at a certain point, it's obvious. And it's like, oh no, actually, not just because I'm in a relationship, but I'm not interested. And that doesn't have to be because you're in a relationship that you're not going to pursue something with this person, but it can be, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like that notion that guys have more respect for the guy than they do for the fact that the girl isn't interested. That would really upset me. I remember being in Baltimore and going out, and a guy would approach me and I would say, no thanks. And he's like, oh, but do you have a boyfriend? No. Well, okay, then let's, and it's like, no, I'm just
not interested.
Yeah. But it's like, if I had said, yes, I have a boyfriend, they would respect that.
Right.
And they'd be like, oh, okay.
I'm gonna, because I know this will probably come up later on in the future thing, in the other parts that we're going to talk about even later on.
Yes.
But
the letters.
I want to just throw a thought out there.
Thought experiment.
It's not a thought experiment. It's the thought that, and it's going to go back a little bit to the male-female relationships thing. Mm-hmm. But so because there's a level of attraction that happens between males and females, because males have dicks and females have the things that the dicks go in to make the babies, and so vaginas. And that's what keeps the human race going. Yep. And so there's this kind of
we approach each other initially, usually out of attraction.
Thing. Yes. Mm-hmm. There's other levels of attraction that people have towards each other, where they're drawn to each other for a reason that you don't always know. And it's very, very easy, because that very base level, guys in I can't necessarily speak for women, but on some level, guys are always kind of walking around looking like, can I stick my dick in that? Can I stick my dick in that? And even if there's a
day in the life of Kitt Bender.
Not Kitt Bender, everybody. There's some part in the back of the brain where the guys, it's there, and it doesn't. In some, it's very forward in the brain, and they're thinking it consciously, and of how can I make this happen? It's a very controlling part of them, and for others, it's further back. Mm-hmm. But for most people, it's there. Yeah. But there's all these other ways that people are attracted to each other. Yeah. And sometimes there's an attraction, a spark of something, a recognition from who knows how that works. But it gets confused because
we think of just attraction as sexual.
Because that is also at play on some level.
Yeah. I know when I met Tom, it wasn't, oh my God, this guy's really hot. I got to get to know him. It was, I was attracted to how just positive and welcoming and fun he was. And then later, I think there were parts at times occasionally that were yeah, he is actually like more attractive to me because of his personality and of getting to know him, but it still wasn't a sexual thing for me. And I didn't ask him that, but I would be curious to know where he stood in that, because it kind of goes back to what we talked about in the first male-female friendship episode, of where you can have attraction and you can be attracted and you can recognize that someone is attractive,
right, and
be friends with them
without being attracted to them.
Yes.
In that way that says you want to cross whatever those lines are. Yeah.
And that was something he talked with his girlfriend about, yeah, she is an attractive girl and, yeah, I can be attracted to her, but that's not where our relationship is going. That's not where I want it to go. And that kind of lends to this whole notion of like having trust in your partner and being confident and secure in yourself and in your relationship to be okay with that healthy level of, being friendly or maybe even being a little bit flirty and recognizing that other people are attractive. Like, yes, that's a normal thing, that's okay. And I think when we start, I had this conversation with Derek's mom when I was in Vegas, we were talking about this, where like not being able to express that healthy level of attraction to other people when you are in a relationship, even if it's someone that's just your friend, is when like, if you don't acknowledge that and if you can't like look at that from a healthy perspective, when there's not that healthy level of that. And when you start to feel like very shameful of that and you just try to push it down and you avoid it, you don't talk about it, you don't tell your partner, but you see that friend, you start to see that friend in a different way, or you recognize that attraction and you feel like a really bad person because of it, that there's the guilt, and then that turns into shame over time. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you are so like, you just suppressed everything. Mm-hmm. And then that's when people act out and cheat.
Right.
That's how affairs happen then.
Right. Because they keep so much of this energy bottled up.
Yes.
Have no release valves. Even if some of the release valves, and I don't mean release valves like finding ways to like touch people inappropriately. Even like just crossing PDA lines. Yeah. I just mean in knowing yourself.
Yeah.
And where your lines are and where you're able to say that's an attractive person and be okay with.
Yeah, because that's an okay thing. There are attractive people. I think for the most part, even all of my friends, female and male, I can say for everyone, they are attractive people. And at times I can also be attracted to them.
And you can acknowledge that with your words without needing to follow through with that with your body.
And also I can tell myself that like, that's okay. That's normal. And you don't need to feel bad about that. You don't need to feel like you need to hide that relationship with that guy friend just because he is attractive. Like, and this was where I kind of was asking Tom, like how realistic is that? And what are kind of the implications of that, where it was kind of almost like post that conversation for them that it was important to communicate that attraction when meeting someone new. And so it's like, oh, yeah, I met this person and they were really cool and we went and did this and they actually used to do this and blah, blah, blah. And they're actually really hot.
But the hard part with that is sometimes that they're actually really hot part comes later.
Yeah.
Like you could like the way that you saw him, maybe not initially as like, oh, like really turning you on or whatever in that romantic attraction way. But then the more you got to know him, you're like, oh, okay, so, and then sometimes maybe you meet someone and you're really drawn to them like, oh, I would, and then you talk to them a little bit and you're like, yeah, but their personality really rubs me the wrong way. And so, or rubs me in a way that's like, they're cool.
Yeah.
But I could not date them and I don't want to have sex with them because for whatever reason. And so if you led with, hey, I really find you attractive. I might want to, then you might miss out on the opportunity just to like be their friend.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, again, I mean, even if you look at like the research that's done with like long-term happy couples, usually those have a really solid foundation of friendship.
Yes.
And so that's where like for me, even when we initially met and it was like, oh, I want to go have a coffee date. It was like, well, like I at that point in my life was also just trying to make a bunch of new friends. But then we were able to like establish that friendship that was like very connecting and very powerful, I think. And like this came up with Tom where, yes, you could still have those thoughts and feel like, oh, I am attracted to that friend, whether you're in a relationship or not, and still take the extra step to like zoom out and ask yourself, would that be worth it? And to ask yourself, why am I feeling like that now? Like, I know I've had guy friends in the past that like I have felt attracted to when I usually don't. And it's like, oh, I could be really impulsive right now and act on this. And I could like make out with them, or I could ask them like, what do you think if we did that? But it's like, why am I feeling like that? And typically that's when I realize, oh, I'm like really lonely.
Yeah.
Or like, oh, like we just connected emotionally really strong and I haven't had that in a long time. And so that's why I feel that way. But when you zoom out, then you're like, no, that's not what I want with this person. And I don't want to like mess up that friendship.
Right.
And so we had that whole conversation, me and Tom.
So I'm going to give my overall thoughts on the Tom situation.
Go.
I think it is quite possible that Tom walked into Numos, saw you, was really attracted to you.
Yeah.
Was like, I really might want a thing with this person, kept his girlfriend a secret for a long time because he really genuinely thought maybe it kept you on the back burner. Maybe it wasn't going to work with his girlfriend, and you were kind of there and he didn't want to mess it up as a just in case. I think that's quite possible. And then you'd feel a little deceived if you came out and he was like hiding it because he had an alternative intention or thought there was a possibility there. Okay. Yeah. I think that's one option. I also think you've got pretty good gauge of character, and you're generally drawn to cool people.
Yeah. And he is a really cool dude.
And if he got all the way through that and was like, I like to feel connections with people and just see where they go. And I know what lines I'm willing to not cross. And to me, getting to know someone, FaceTiming them, texting them a little bit, maybe inviting them to hang out with me and my friends, not really crossing a line because there's not any physical lines being crossed. And that's just kind of the way I am. And I actually don't want to put too many barriers on something right away because who knows what could happen. And it's better to just kind of let him flow.
Yeah.
And he's genuine in that. And he wasn't hiding anything. It was a way for him to get to know someone with potential, with options, because you never know what's going to happen, but also with like, and then maybe, so I think. Well,
and he also said too that he is someone that keeps his relationships private, that like he really only has like one or two friends that he'll talk to about his relationship. And so for me, I was like,
that's a whole other factor, which I don't know if that plays into it interestingly. So between those, because I can't know for sure.
So was it a deceitful disclosure?
I am going to lean towards, without being able to commit to it 100%. I'm going to lean towards no.
Yeah. Okay.
No. I think his intention was not deceitful. And I think his... I think he was leaning towards not being deceitful. That's the best way I can say that.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure, but I don't think he was trying to. And I think it was probably appropriate on some levels that his girlfriend responded the way she did. Yeah. Because, but mostly because it enabled them to have this conversation. And on some levels, it could be like he's attracted to you simply because you guys worked out.
Had a good chemistry.
Had a good vibe. Yeah. And it gave you both the opportunity to have this conversation. Yeah. And that can be a powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Because we're all learning very, very valuable things here because of that.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with whether or not you guys had sex or should have had sex or should have been romantic or shouldn't have been romantic.
Yeah. And even, when I first got the text, it really caused me to reflect on like, well, when would have been an appropriate time?
Yes.
When would it have started to feel deceitful? And really trying to think back, because again, we hadn't had contact in a while, and it was like, how close did I think we were? How strong did I think our connection was to where it would perhaps hurt to not know that information? Or was it maybe really more of just a friendly, casual thing that I'm remembering as more in depth?
Maybe.
So to ask myself those questions, and I think it wasn't intentionally deceitful.
Okay.
But I do think that there were opportunities for him to disclose his relationship status through one of the FaceTimes that we had. And so I definitely still felt hurt about that and felt like a little bit deceived.
So this is a text message that I've gotten before, and I want your opinion of it. I've gotten the message where at some point, because you say, when you look back at it, there's often no perfect place to say
no
that.
right time.
So some people take the approach that they are just very, very blunt with it. Like at some point, if you're texting with someone and maybe you went on a date with them, and then a few months down the line, some of them are very clear to just say, look, I'm in a relationship, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. They're usually very nice about it, but they just kind of get straight to the point.
Yeah.
What do you think about that approach?
That to me sounds like just a straight up rejection of any contact. It sounds like it sounds like basically like warning, back off in a way.
Okay.
And again, I think it depends on the person's approach, but for me, I would want to first just have that, like, I'm not even saying I want to date you. I don't even know if I am interested in you that way. Like, I was just thinking we could be friends and like see where that goes. If you're in a relationship, that's cool. Are you still open to like getting to know me as a person and making friends?
And if they are like, no, absolutely not, then you just got to walk away.
Yeah.
Which approach do you think is better? The direct, I'm in a relationship, just whatever, or ghosting, or some version of where you just don't, maybe not full on ghosting, but just like, saying, okay, whatever,
space.
not committing to hanging out with them if you don't really want to hang out with them, but also not like just being really blunt as to why, just saying,
yeah. I think not
sorry,
like if
I'm
you have an interest in that person as well, and you feel like you guys could be like good friends, and maybe there is some attraction there, I think that's like a disservice to yourself to not explore that connection. Not saying that you're going into it like tempting yourself or, crossing a line in a relationship, but that to really just look at it as like you're just getting to know someone else. And yeah, they happen to be attractive, but that's not the only thing about them. That's not the only thing that they bring to the table, and it's not the only thing I like about them. I think allows you to then actually have deeper connections with people. Like, we're not still in that, Stone Age where we just see each other and are like, oh my God, I have to put babies in you. Like, we can control ourselves when we make those commitments. And I think we can also really flourish and learn a lot, like we talked about in the first portion of the male-female friendship episode, that like you can learn a lot from having friends of the opposite sex. And I think that brings a lot to the table.
Yeah. But there is no perfect answer of when is the appropriate time to reveal. It's all this kind of gray area of at what point does it become deceitful disclosure. And
so with that being said, I want to know kind of what you think of this Vegas story. I thought a lot about if this was a good story to share or not, and if, things that could be said of me or of the situation, because some things already were said. And then I was just kind of like, this was real for me, and this is what happened, and like this is my platform, and this is where I get to talk about those things. So hopefully it's relatable in some way for other people and can be helpful. And I think that this was a situation where I was the one being accused of like deceitful disclosure.
Okay.
So
start at the beginning. This was Vegas a few weeks ago?
This was Vegas. I was there for Derek's sister's bachelorette party.
Okay.
And I did not have my ring going into this. I had a major like sinus headache thing the day I was supposed to fly out, and had been doing dishes and whatnot. I like to take the ring off when I'm doing dishes, and then was just like in bed and was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to make this flight. And Derek came back from work and then helped me out and helped me pack. And then we were just like rushing to get to the airport, and we had left the house. And again, like he lives in Stanford and I was flying out of JFK. So it was like, it was a later flight too. So you're going to hit like traffic, and there were all kinds of things happening. So once we had got on the road, I was like, shit, I forgot my ring.
You left it.
And I'm going to Vegas and just blah.
Okay.
I was like, okay, great. People are going to have things to say about this. But also, like, I don't think that it's necessary that I wear the ring all the time. I'm in a relationship. I'm a grown woman. I am confident in my relationship, and I don't need to like be peed on.
Which in some senses an engagement ring especially is just a certain kind of social territorial move.
Yeah. And not to say that I don't love it and that I don't like, enjoy wearing it and that I don't,
right.
value the relationship in that way, but I don't need like a ring to tell me that like I value my relationship.
Right.
So that's just my personal
and just not having the
standpoint.
Ring isn't in your mind.
Yeah.
You're an invitation to like open up to anything else.
No. So I went to Vegas, and again, it was Derek's sister's bachelorette party. Okay. And I was going there for that and like to hang out. I stayed like a day and a half later, like to spend some extra time with his mom. So it was just me and her one-on-one. But so it was like her and her friends, and like they're all from Iowa. And like it was a lot of the girls' first time in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And, the only times that I'd been to Vegas were like pre-show where I was single, and I was with a bunch of other girls from the show. So we were like just turning up to the max. And that was the only way I'd really experienced Vegas. And so I was like, I'd been once or twice with Derek and his family, and it was just like a family trip. And so we got there, and I was kind of like asking his sister, like, well, how much do you want to do? Like her maid of honor had planned out a bunch of stuff. And so we were going to be going to a few clubs. And the first night we went out to this like chandelier bar at Cosmo. And I was just like walking up to the bar, and this waitress like walked by, and this guy was walking to the bar at the same time as me. And the waitress like dropped her pad, and we both went to pick it up. And then he picked it up and like made a joke of like, oh, did you order a... And we looked at the thing, and it was just a bunch of scribble. And we
this
were like...
already is starting like the first...
It sounds like a rom-com.
10 minutes of an awful rom-com.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
Did you drop this? Did you order a pineapple?
It totally was. It totally was. And that's why like I love all these details. So I'm like, I'm all about the details. So this is how I met him. And we both laughed because it was like just scribble, and we were like, oh yeah, a bunch of scribble drinks is what I ordered. And got to talking at the bar, and just seemed like a cool, like normal dude. He was from Wyoming, and told him like, yeah, I'm here for Rachel's bachelorette party, and like he got Rachel a drink. And then he was like, he was here with his whole group of friends, and they were all couples. He was the only single guy. And I made a comment about like, oh yeah, like I hear dating in LA really sucks because he lives in LA, but is from Wyoming. And he just kind of like laughed, and that was it to that comment. Then his whole group came over, and like both of our groups were like combined, talking to each other, having a great time. It was like, oh my God, Iowa and Wyoming. We're both like, small towns, blah, 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 that kind of stuff.
Are you primarily talking with him and the groups around you at this point, or are the groups just
It was kind of
intermingled.
Yeah, it was intermingled. Like he was interacting with the other girls in the group. And then as soon as he walked away from me, this other guy came up to me and started talking. And he was from Austin. And so we talked about like how Austin and Seattle have a lot of similarities and just like friendly conversation. The second guy that came up was definitely trying to flirt with me. And I was like, definitely not. And he did invite us to go see Calvin Harris and that, our whole party could join at his table. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing for my, future sister-in-law and potentially get us that table. Mm-hmm. Yes, I could have reached out to like promoters and done other stuff, but this was just right here. And this was a friendly thing. And this is what people do in Vegas. So exchanged information with him, and we were planning of going and doing that with him and his group, but I had just met him. And then like we were intermingling with that same group, right? And then he mentioned that they had a table at Omnia and we're going to see Zed.
This is the second guy.
This is the first guy.
Oh, the Scribble guy is back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And
let's call him Tom too, just for fun.
Let's call him
Vegas Tom.
Sam.
Okay, fine.
Let's call him
That's
Sam.
better.
So Sam and his whole group were, all intermingling. We're all having a great time. And he mentioned the Zed show.
Okay.
And like kind of passively. And so I was like, is that an invite or not? And he was like, yeah, it's an invite. Yeah. I think it'd be really great if you and your group came and joined us. And I was like, okay, yeah, like we would really enjoy doing that. Like you guys all seem really super cool and fun and, thanks. And there was only one thing that I said to him in that conversation that I thought was maybe a little bit flirty. And I don't remember what he said, but I made a "that's what she said" joke. I just couldn't not.
Okay.
It was so right there. And I don't remember what it was that he was saying, but he like kept going on and he had no clue. It was one of those like really good ones that he had no idea.
Right.
And I was like, that's what she said. And I like kind of made a face like, is that okay that I said that? and he was like, that was good. I didn't even realize. So it was one of those. And like, yeah, he was like a attractive guy. And so then like we exchanged info and their whole groups went their separate way. And he had texted some small exchanges about where we were and where they were. And they were going to maybe meet up with us at the club that we were at. They didn't end up coming. And then he sent me a text that was like something about if we had room in our room for him. And I was just like, whoa. And that's all I said. And then I was like, I'm not responding to him.
You said, whoa, like.
I said, whoa, all caps with a bunch of H's. And at that point, it was like 2:30 in the morning. So I was like, this dude is very drunk and probably never going to see him again. Initially, I had thought, he's in LA. Maybe I'll see him. We can like be friends and, cool thing. Like cool random meeting someone.
But then, whoa.
And then I was like, whoa, okay, never mind. And
you didn't want to share your trundle bed with him?
Nope.
Roll away?
Nope. And I'm like, you're a cool guy and you are attractive, yes, but I'm not interested in you that way. And it had never came up. And so I sent him that text, and then he asked what our plans were the next day, and I still just didn't respond. I was like, okay, now I'm ghosting you. And part of me was like, that's not cool that I'm doing that, but I was also like, I met this guy for a few hours, and he was very drunk, and just
I don't think that counts as ghosting, for the record.
I agree. Thank you. Then he texted me like a few hours later again. So he texted me 3 more times when I had no response. And he said, come to our table tonight. Come to Omnia and, come hang out at our table. And I asked Rachel, Derek's sister, I was like, she had known about the text and everything. And I was like, do you think it's okay? Like, how badly do you want to go see Zed? Like, I know you really liked their group and, we had fun with all of them. Like, are you comfortable with that? Like, is that something you want to do? And she was like, oh, yeah. I'll flirt with Sam. It's our bachelor party. That's what she's supposed to do.
Okay.
And it's just like, yeah, no worries. Like, I'll just flirt with Sam.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, yeah, cool. That works for me. And, you know, we got there and he was very drunk. And
this is the next night, correct?
Yes, this is the next night. And so he was very drunk and I was just kind of mingling with the other people in his group. Like I said, they were all couples, and there was one girl who was sober because she was pregnant. And when I had met her the night before, I could tell she was very insecure about being pregnant and being in Vegas. It was her first time in Vegas and all that stuff. And so I was like, oh, like, no worries. Like, I don't drink. So like, you're cool. Like, we'll be sober Sally's together. Like, it's okay. Like, we'll still have a fun time kind of thing. And, you know, had kind of not necessarily pulled her aside, but was like talking with her when we were at Omnia and just like really like trying to get to know her and, you know, asking her how she felt about the pregnancy and like what her background was. And she like had majored in criminal justice and her husband has like 2 engineering degrees and like they got to live in India for a bunch of time, like all this cool stuff. And I was like, whoa, like I'm blown away by that. Like that sounds amazing. And they were contemplating moving to Seattle or Denver. And so I was talking about Seattle a lot and she was like, you know, so what do you do? And I was like, oh, like, yeah, I have, well, when she brought up the criminal justice thing, I was like, oh yeah, like I've always, you know, really wanted to have experience working in the prison population doing counseling because I have a degree in counseling and, you know, that's always been super fascinating to me. And so she's kind of like, oh, like, so are you know, what do you do? And I was like, oh, well, like I have a podcast that like focuses on mental health and then I do stuff on social media too. And she was like, oh, okay. And
you don't just say, I'm an influencer.
No, I don't.
I'm an influencer with a pod. I thought that was like the cool lingo for this kind of thing.
I mean, I can start using that.
I think that would put you in an interesting stereotype.
It definitely would.
I think doing stuff on social media and a thorough explanation of your podcast is probably a better approach. So please don't follow my advice.
Yeah. So that's all I said. And she didn't really ask me follow-up questions. And she was just kind of like, I did include in there. I was like, yeah, I got my master's. And then after that, like life just got a little, you know, hectic. I did some things unrelated to my field and, you know, just took some time. And, but now I have a podcast and do stuff on social media. She's like, oh, okay, cool. And didn't ask any more questions there. And that was where like normally the show would come up and like someone would ask like, oh, well, what happened? Or like, oh, that's cool. Like, how do you get to do stuff on social media? Like, what kind of stuff on social media? Then that's where like the show stuff comes up. And I'm like, oh, like I went on The Bachelor and then on Paradise and, you know, that's where I met Derek and all that stuff. And it just, she didn't say anything. And so I was like.
But you found that to be the kind of natural flow of conversation. That
usually.
Once you get to that point, someone asks, then.
Usually. And so I was like, oh, like that's like, okay. You know, she just kind of like left the conversation there. And I was like, okay, cool. And Sam at that point had like fallen over. Like he was very drunk. And so I was like, okay, we need to get him some water. Like I stepped up and was like, I normally am and was like trying to take care of him. Like that was the one time that I like actually like touched him because I was like,
because he was walking in scribble drink.
I was like, are you good? Are you good? And our whole table was like concerned about him. And even before he actually got to that point of being really drunk, we like offered to help pay for the table. We offered to like get a bottle for everyone. And so he was just like, oh, no, like it's cool. Don't worry. And so that was kind of that. And then we had got down to like where Zed was playing and Sam was very drunk at this point. And the people, like they were only letting certain people in. And we had kind of like bonded together as a group. So I won't go into all the other details, but essentially, we had hung out with this group most of the time. And then later on towards the night, Sam was definitely very, very drunk and was asking, for us to like get together and to dance. And I was like, no, I'm good. And all that stuff, whatever. End of Vegas. Then I got a tweet from someone saying that people are talking about you on the Bachelor Reddit board if you want to say something. And I was like, what? I was like, never really used Reddit before. And so I went and looked, and it was a picture of me with Sam's group because we had all taken a photo together. And I thought it was interesting that they only wanted me in the photo. And it was basically a article about how like I was in Vegas without my ring on and was being really flirty with him, and that I used them for their table. And not once did I mention Derek or did I mention the show, and how I was being very deceitful.
Okay.
So that was basically it. And I was kind of like, you know, and so I had this whole process of like, whoa, you were deceitful. You knew the whole time and didn't say anything. Even at one point, she said that she lives in Kansas or Arkansas.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, yeah, I have a girlfriend that lives there, and she lives in Hoxie. She knew I was talking about Raven. But she was like, oh, cool. So there were all these different things. And when I said, oh, my life got really crazy, you know, whatever, and, you know, I have a podcast and do someone on social media, she didn't ask any questions because she knew.
How?
Probably because she recognized me from the show.
Like it wasn't like they weren't intentionally.
See, and this is where I'm like, I don't think that Sam knew. I don't think Sam knew. And that was where it was like, okay, now there's layers of deceitfulness here. Like I didn't disclose that I was in a relationship because he didn't, aside from like his very drunken text, never made a move, never tried to cross any boundaries. I wasn't being flirty. We were legit just being like, I was just being nice and friendly. Mm-hmm. And there was one time again, way later on the night, where he was like starting to, you know, say, you're really pretty. You're so pretty. The prettiest girl I've ever seen. And I was like, you're very drunk. Mm-hmm. It's like, thank you, but you're very, you're feeling it.
Is it possible? Mm-hmm. If I'm dropping myself into this rom-com, if I'm pregnant,
if you're the one sober person besides me in the group,
I'm pregnant lady, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm sitting back there,
yep,
with my gossip texting or whatever she was doing.
Yeah.
But she's watching you two, and he's drunkenly saying, "You're beautiful, you're beautiful," and you're saying you're drunk, and you're laughing and kind of just being a little awkward because you don't know what the crap to do with this guy.
Exactly.
If I'm pregnant lady, does that look really flirtatious?
I guess.
I mean, I'm trying to put myself there, and I see how it could.
Yes, I think it came across as flirtatious to her because I think to her, I wouldn't have been at their table in the first place.
Right.
Because I'm a celebrity and I would have had something else and blah, 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 whatever else. Like, I think she was expecting to get something from us being there. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And the way that she wrote about it on the Reddit board was honestly very hurtful. And I was like very close to contacting him and being like, you know, I want to talk to her because I thought I was just like connecting with someone. And meanwhile, like you knew this whole other portion about my life, but you weren't upfront about the fact that you knew it. And so that's like a whole different layer of deceitfulness. But she really seemed to have a problem with the fact that I never mentioned I wasn't wearing my ring. I was there with his sister and mom, but that it was a very deceitful that I never told Sam that I was in a relationship. Do you think that that was deceitful non-disclosure? Because I really tried to think about this. And I even thought afterwards, I was like, you know, he did seem like a good guy. I think he was experiencing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. He was on this like, you know, reunion trip with his friends who are all couples and he's the only single one. And he just seemed like a little lost in his life. But he was really nice and he just got really drunk. And, you know, maybe I do run into him when I'm in LA one day. And, you know, maybe I do just let him know like, hey, yeah, like this is a whole other part of my life and blah, blah, blah. But like I had a great time with your friends and, you know, whatever. But I'm like, I've tried really hard to think about if that was deceitful, that I didn't upfrontly say to him, yeah, by the way, I am in a relationship. I made it clear that I wasn't interested.
Right.
But did I also need to add that I was in a relationship? I know some people are probably like, oh, well, that's really stupid of her because you have a public image, like people are going to find out anyway. And it's like, yeah, and that's fine. And they can, but that's not something.
Like pregnant lady probably did in the sense that
if
she knew who you were, she knew you were engaged.
Yeah.
If she had interacted with you at all on social media.
Yeah.
Because it's not like you're hiding it in any way.
Yeah.
So if I put myself in her shoes,
in his shoes.
In Sam's shoes.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that was saying that it was very deceitful.
We'll call pregnant lady Ellen.
Ellen. Okay. I won't be so concerned with Ellen then. Ellen and Sam.
Well, because it's interesting because it's like a deceitful disclosure, even just with a girl, with someone like a friend of the same sex.
Yes.
But it's not really just the fact that I didn't disclose to her that I was in a relationship, but it was like the fact that I didn't disclose to her that I was on the show. Was weird to her.
I get that. I get that in the sense that if she knew who you were, she probably had some like pre-thought.
Total preconceived notion about all
who
that.
You were and how you lived and what kind of circles you would roll in.
Yes.
And so she figured if you were in the, I have a fiance from being on a show called Bachelors in Paradise, and I'm, have a large social media following because of what I've done there and all this kind of stuff. If she just puts you in that box.
I was definitely put in that box.
Well,
and I don't like to be put in that box, which is why I just go about my life and I'm just me.
The expectation though. But what she saw wasn't in that box is what it feels like to me. And she sees this person that she figures would have the giant ring on and would just be with some maybe entourage of other Bachelor people.
Yeah.
And that just seems like the normal thing. That would be what Taylor would be doing in Vegas, but she's here with no ring on and a different group, and she's talking to this single guy.
Well, but with Derek's family.
So
and that was the other thing. I was waiting. I was asking all of them how they all knew each other, and not once did anyone ask how I knew the Bachelorette.
Right. And that was the point I was about to get to, in that there were a number of opportunities where
it would naturally come up
conversation
if they had
would naturally
let it
come up. And that was what really surprised me as you told this whole thing. If Ellen or why Ellen wouldn't have asked, not just
like they're all from Iowa, I'm from Seattle, like all that kind of stuff. So like how it didn't come up naturally.
If I knew you were on The Bachelor and all that stuff, you were engaged, you were in Vegas, didn't have the ring, I would think, well, why is she here?
Yeah.
And maybe ask. And then that would provide the opportunity for you to either say, just a friend of mine, and we're just hanging out. Mm-hmm. But no, you probably would have said, it's my fiance's sister.
Yeah. Yep.
That seemed like the natural place. So given that there, I think there were opportunities, natural opportunities for that to come in a conversation. Mm-hmm. But Ellen and Sam, maybe at different times, but not taking advantage of those opportunities to would naturally come up. Yeah, almost as a test to be like,
exactly. And that's where I felt like I was very deceived because I felt like I was being tested the whole time when I thought I was having like these genuine, just friendly, nice interactions with this group of people, and then I was like, that really hurts my feelings, and I feel taken advantage of, and I feel like, again,
it just feels
there's
to me,
a lot of layers.
It feels to me that their attempt to paint you as a deceptive person made them act deceptively. That's what it seems. Maybe they didn't think it. They weren't like, we're gonna try to trick her and whatever. But it feels like they maybe were so convinced that you were being deceptive that that there was some maybe unintentional, but some deception, non-disclosure on their end of what they knew about you. And so your actions, my conclusion is leaning not just slightly, but pretty far towards not being not disclosing deceptively. There we go. I was trying to flip those around, and it took me a minute.
Yeah.
But I definitely see why they would have thought that.
Yeah, and I tried to compare it in a way to make sense of it to the Tom situation, where I felt deceived in a way because I think after that trip to Seattle that would have came up but it didn't. So for me, almost, I look at it as like, yeah, I think I could have been pretty deceitful had I, hung out with Sam in LA and then it never came up. Right. Or like we FaceTimed and we talked and it still never came up. Like, no, this was like us all partying together and everyone in the group being completely shit-faced to the point where one of them even got kicked out because they were so drunk. Like,
I think this is why that expression, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, because at some point, if so many people go, they get drunk. You can't carry your camera around making accusations of people because no one's behaving like they do in real life on purpose. Like that's why people go to Vegas, to just have a little.
And I can see where that would be
real life.
And I can see where that would be their thought of me then.
Yes.
But it's also I'm with his family.
That's the part where, if nothing else, that should have been a conversation. That if you wanted to get to know someone from another group, that's a question I ask all the time, just because it's a good question.
Yeah.
How do you all know each other? How can I tie all these people together? It's my fiance's sister. Okay. Disclosed.
Yep.
End of deception.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't any. That's my conclusion.
Thank you. That definitely gives me some closure a bit. Because I really struggled on it. And I was like, do I share this on the pod? Do I not share this on the pod? But it was it has layers of deception to it. And there's a lot of factors involved. But I thought it related here to this.
It does.
In some ways.
It does.
Yeah.
But sometimes people find what they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, and it was really also a lesson in how I carry myself in public and just being more aware of other people.
Does it make you want to play that role of that person that's in the box
what did you want?
A little more intentionally?
Yeah, I was almost like, well, what do you want me to just be snobby and think I'm oh, well, I'm not going to talk to you guys because I'm a celebrity and I'm just going to go get my free tables elsewhere and oh my God. That was what I felt like she thought I should have been.
But then she maybe would have written an article about that.
Yep, exactly. So it's like a lose-lose anyway.
It's lose-lose.
And it's she was definitely trying to get something out of it and thought she had something. Because
don't troll a troll because you both get trolled and the troll likes it.
It's I get myself in these situations with people who really enjoy this kind of thing. And I'm
you just can't.
Sometimes I just was trying to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lots of lessons learned there. I will meet Derek in Vegas for a friend's 40th birthday this weekend, and he will be bringing my ring so people can stop asking me. Because I was like, well, shit, I'm going to Vegas, and then I'm going to Seattle, and then I'll see you in Vegas again. But the whole time, I'm not going to have my ring. Well,
let's hope, the story would start to change if somehow Sam showed back up in Vegas.
Yeah. We'll see. Would me and Sam have still had the interactions that we had if I had my ring on? That's a question.
That is a good question that, of course, has no answer. My initial guess is probably no.
Yeah. See, because I know how I am when I'm out, I still think we would have. Because I also know how to manipulate when guys are attracted to me and I have something.
You want a table at the Zed concert.
Yeah. I had to do it for my girl, Rachel. Derek's sister needed a good bachelorette party, okay? And me and his family joked about it. We were
a little bit of a scapegoat for the situation.
Absolutely.
But it does work.
Absolutely. And had I not been in that context, I wouldn't have gone there. But we were me and his mom and his sister were joking about it, oh, we're pimping Taylor out, to get table. It was a bonding experience, let me tell you.
Yes. And in that sense, you can see that without all of the information,
yeah,
especially if that's what you were looking for, I can totally see how it would look like if you were just a really shallow, flaky person that would take your ring off and flirt with someone to get a table.
Exactly. And that's what some people did think, and they were like, but they were like, oh, it's not even a big deal. That's what girls do in Vegas. And I was like, very interesting.
Oh, so you were getting it from both sides. Some people were just saying that's just what people do. You take off your ring, you flirt with whoever you need to flirt with. And if it works out, works out, then that tells a whole different thing about character. But that's just kind of what everyone does.
But see, I still think that even if I had my ring on, and even if, say in that first conversation that we would have had that conversation about how I am in a relationship, I still think we would have got that table. I think that we still would have hung out with them and had that time with them because our groups got along really well. And
it wasn't just you two. It was
yes,
multiple people that were all kind of hanging out.
And aside from like the sketchiness of Ellen and the deceitfulness, like I know that when I'm out, I'm just a very friendly, like happy-go-lucky person.
Yes, you are.
And I can make friends with anyone, regardless of if I have a ring on my finger or not. And I still think that I'm a genuinely fun person to be around when I'm out. And I still think that even if he knew directly that we weren't going to have a romantic relationship, that he still would have wanted to be around me and had a fun time.
Okay.
Maybe it's like overconfident.
I don't know. I may be just kind of writing his intentions off too soon in a stereotypical way in saying, no, I don't think it would have. Because you're exactly right. It's very, very possible that the groups could have got along anyway.
Yeah.
And so,
that's what was so hurtful. Was
I could give him the benefit of the doubt of it for sure.
Yeah.
I partially also just want to not give him the benefit of the doubt because they for sure didn't give you that.
No, exactly.
So
thank you. Thank you. It was a lot to process when it all happened. It was very hurtful.
It was.
So if any of you listening see me in public, please just feel free to let me know that you know and that you recognize me.
Yes.
And
don't put it through some test.
Yeah, and even in situations where people do just come up to me and recognize me, we still have those long conversations. It's not like a thing I'm just going to write you off as like a fangirl or whatever. Like, it caused all kinds of thought experiments to happen in my head. But I appreciate your input on my disclosure.
How much will it change the way you act in public now?
That's what I was trying to think about.
Yeah.
And it's hard because I don't want to. Like, I want to be able to trust and just
do you.
Exactly.
But also there is this thing where people are always viewing you through a certain lens just because of status or whatever. But regardless of the way you feel about it, other people do view you this way, and sometimes it's hard to figure out how to be genuine and to be open and to be honest, but also like know that you can't be everything to everybody. You really just can't. You just have to be your most genuine self in as many situations as you can. And some people, like I said, you troll a troll.
Yep.
Can't do it.
Yep.
Okay, so I have a story that I want your opinion on.
Yeah. Let's do it. You were a great friend-to-pist just there, so I'll put my friend-to-pist hat on now for you.
So this is in the actions of another person, and I want you to think about whether this person's actions were. Well, I just want your opinion on them. Okay. So I was at a party a few months ago, and I met this girl, and we started talking. Didn't talk for an incredibly long time, but it was kind of fun, and you could it seemed, at least to me, that there was a little bit of some kind of spark there. But we separated, and I ended up leaving the party not too long afterwards. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get really to have a second conversation with her. Just the initial one, that was it. But I was still kind of attracted to her and kind of thought, if I had the opportunity, we would have stumbled back across each other at that party. I probably would have, asked for her number, or at least tried to talk to her again. Mm-hmm. So I woke up the next morning with a Facebook friend invitation from her.
I love that you said invitation, Kitt. That's so cute.
Is that me being old?
You're
again?
Old.
What's the correct way to say that?
It's a friend request.
A friend request invitation. I'm not that old.
You're not.
I accepted her invitation. Sincerely.
Yes.
And over the next few days, we chatted back and forth a little, nothing crazy. At some point, I did ask her for coffee. Mm-hmm. She just never responded. And at some point, find revealed from just being having accepted her invitation, that she had a boyfriend and had that boyfriend for a while.
Wait, how did you find that out?
From Facebook, just like...
Yeah, I was going to say, if you guys were like messaging back and forth on Facebook, did she not have a boyfriend on Facebook?
She wasn't listed as in a relationship on Facebook.
So you didn't do a thorough stalking of her Facebook to see photos that she had a boyfriend?
Yes, by her general
Until she
page,
stopped messaging you.
Until she stopped. And then eventually a picture came out and then they were like, oh, whatever, for a year and a half we'd been whatever.
Oh,
but
okay.
And also like in that picture, I remember seeing that he just doesn't like pictures. That was the thing where she mentioned, like, I can never get a picture of him. And so I was like, well, I mean, dude, she's not trying to hide it. That's just their thing. He's just not one of those guys that whatever. And so I didn't feel like she was deceiving me, but it never came up in our first conversation, which I wouldn't have expected. It didn't come up in any of our chats, which I also wouldn't have expected. But do you think it was appropriate for her in that moment when I did like actually cross a certain line for her to just disappear?
I don't think that was okay. I think she should have had some response. I think you guys were developing some kind of a relationship. And I mean, how long would you say this went on for?
Not long, a couple days. It wasn't an in-depth thing. We didn't get too deep into stuff. We just we talked a little bit about what we did and all that.
Yeah. No, I would still say that it would have been respectful to have some kind of a response. Whether it was, I'm actually, and that's kind of where we go back to the whole, like, can you just say no because you're not interested? Or do you have to use this reason that you're in a relationship and so you're not going to?
And also, can she just send me a friend request invitation just because she thought I was cool and might want to be my friend?
Yeah. And I think that
without
is
me
totally
thinking,
the case.
Oh, I should ask her to coffee.
Yeah. But I think even that though, like, if that were me, I would still be like, oh yeah, like we can get coffee. Like I've been talking to you. I sent you the invitation to be friends. That I had already kind of initiated that to say that I was interested in you as a person and getting to know you and taking the time to have those little conversations here and there and then asking to go get coffee. That's just an extension of that. So if she wasn't prepared to be friends on Facebook and to develop some kind of a friendship or whatever, then I'd be confused as to why she would just ghost. So it either tells me that she didn't trust herself because she would have wanted more with you, and she only wanted to be friends on Facebook because that's the safe way to like vicariously imagine if there could be something with you.
Right.
And what that would look like. And I think also that she perhaps could have felt a little embarrassed or guilty once she had posted about her boyfriend that you had asked her out on a date and that she had maybe misled you. And so rather than confront that and come forward with being in a relationship or not being interested, whatever, even though I don't really think that was the case, that it would have made her feel bad and uncomfortable.
Right. And it wasn't even until quite a while after this that I even saw the picture of the boyfriend. So there was quite a while, weeks probably or more.
Oh, wow.
Where I just figured like, oh, she just sent me a friend request and then peaced out, which is fine. I just like sometimes that happens when you meet someone at a party.
Yeah.
But it seemed like a strange move. But,
like it seemed like she was pretty interested and then just.
Well, see, I don't feel like we got to know each other well enough to know one way or the other. And that's kind of where I didn't get a chance to talk to her again at the party. And so I was like, let's get coffee and like, see if this was just a random, or if there's, and so what I wonder is if she did say, yeah, I work on Tuesday, let's get coffee after, and then as part of that conversation, if she would have said, I'm going to go to a festival with my boyfriend, what would have my response been? Would I have then felt intentionally deceived? Like, wait.
Misled, yeah.
Which is why people sometimes have those awkward conversations of like, are we on a date right now? Just because sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that was like what I had asked you almost. I don't remember if it was before we went and got coffee. Or was it during?
I think it was after.
It was after. Because I was like, okay, yeah, like we can get together. But then it was like, just so you know.
How I remember it is it was after we had gotten together the first time. And you were like, yeah, it'd be fun to hang out again. But under these, this
is where
with this
I'm
understanding.
at.
Yeah. I'm here. I'm making friends. Not really looking for anything particular. So just so you know. And I was like, okay, that's fine.
I don't remember that.
That's how I remember it, at least.
Well.
Are you going back to the messages?
I am. Yeah, you sent me a photo of text that said coffee. Mm-hmm. And I said, you want to get coffee? Yeah, we could do that. And he said, great. When are you free? Tomorrow's my day off. I have some flexibility. So I go to Tuesday. I'm free all day, evening. Tomorrow I start seeing clients at 12 and go through to about 7. Tuesday afternoon? How about 2? That works. Where do you want to go? I'm in South Lake Union. Where are you? I'm in South Seattle, kind of near Renton. Not much down here. Haha. There's a cool place up here called Citizen Coffee. How's that?
Had you been to Citizen before that?
Yeah, I think I've actually been there before. Lower Queen Anne, right?
There it is. Okay.
I think it's actually on Taylor
Avenue, yes. This is when I said I wish I would have known that and done it on purpose.
Yep, haha. I didn't realize that. It would have been clever if I did that on purpose. I said, haha, we can say you did. So I said smiley face, and you said deal, wink face.
Oh, okay. There, I crossed a line. I went winky on you. Damn.
We were both single. And I said, so I'll see you then. Tuesday, 2 p.m., Citizen Taylor Ave.
Okay.
He said, you will see me then. I said, sounds good. You just said, very much enjoyed myself and would love to see you again. Put your number. And then in parentheses said, unless you have a deep connection with InstaChat. And I said, haha, yeah, I had fun too. I'll shoot you a text with my number. Okay. So we would have to go all the way back to the text messages, which we don't have time for. Maybe another episode.
We've sent a few text messages in the last 2.5 years, so.
Yes, it has been done before. I have done that.
So from what I remember is at that point, once we started texting, was when you were like,
yeah,
this is where I'm at. And I was like, that's fine. It was a fun conversation.
Yeah. And to relate this back to your story with this girl, though, what if I had not just said, just so you know, this is the place where I'm at, but I had said, just want to let you know, I am in a relationship.
At that, I would have felt a little deceived if you were in a relationship at that point.
Yeah.
I feel like we had gone that far. If it didn't come up in coffee, it was too late.
Yeah. See, and an interesting thing that came up on that blog thing where Ellen was being a little sneaky was people Ellen. Saying that it was unacceptable even that I gave my number out, being in a relationship.
Yeah,
so there's a whole thing of it. And I think, again, going back to our episode previously, that it's all about inclusion and the clear communication. Like communicating to your partner, communicating to your friend who's of the opposite sex, or of the same sex that you're attracted to if you're not heterosexual. But that just communicating all of that in an open way and in an accepting way, I think, is what allows people to actually be able to have these healthy, fulfilling male-female friendships.
So I have this thought that if I was in a relationship, I think I would want that to be a thing that naturally would come up in conversation. Mm-hmm. I would want to have a relationship that was healthy enough that I didn't have to feel like, but I could get to know this person differently if I didn't disclose. I'd want that to be part of it of like, I'm cool, you're cool, my girlfriend's cool.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit of a red flag for me in my relationship.
Yeah.
If
the strength and like security and
if there was a part of me that was like letting some conversations go for quite a while without disclosing that I'm in a relationship.
Yeah.
I think that would start to, if nothing else, just give me pause about the health of my relationship. So that's when I see it in someone else, there's a part of me that says, "Oh, why are they non-disclosing?"
Yeah.
And part
What's
of it, though,
going on
part
in
of it
that?
though is just because people react a little differently when they know you're in a relationship, and if they know that you're not on the table at all, romantically or sexually, some people just would rather move on.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It's sometimes better to know.
And for me, though, sometimes I do like to challenge that. Just because I'm...
By not wearing your wedding ring in Vegas.
Me. No. But to challenge people, like even in the past when I've just had boyfriends and I've not been engaged, that like, I have a boyfriend, but does that mean you no longer think I'm a cool person? Does that no longer mean that you're enjoying our conversation?
Do you just look her right in the eye and say that?
I mean, it's like, so we can't develop a friendship then? You only want to talk to me to get in my pants? And now that you know that I'm not interested and that I'm with someone else, you no longer care about me as a person or developing this friendship.
That's tricky. Because if I was put in that situation, I started talking to someone and then there was a noticeable change in vibe when I found out. Because I think it is valuable, and this is where the wedding ring, I think, does come in handy. I think there's a certain value in knowing with that base instinct, in knowing whether that is even a thing that can be on the table right away. I think there's an advantage to that. Like, for instance, if I meet someone and right away I see they have a wedding ring on, I could still think they're cool. They're pretty. Yeah. They might be a neat person. We could be friends, but also know that I'm also not going to try to do anything romantically with them. And I find that information actually really, really helpful because it allows me to maybe even be more likely to just be open of just being a nice, good, cool, friendly guy without being like, oh, I wonder if she might be kind of also into me. Because then it doesn't even matter. It's just a matter of whether we can have a conversation about something.
Yeah.
That's it.
And even that also just kind of sets you up to have this sense of like security maybe with the relationship of like what the boundary is. Definitely, giving yourself some space compassionately to talk about this issue and, a place of non-judgment certainly helps you get through the conversation a little bit more productively.
Roger that.
Roger that. You ready to wrap this thing up? This has been a long episode.
It was a really fun conversation, though. Really fun. I'm glad you held off on the Vegas story and let me kind of all, take it all in at once. But
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what she said?
Oh. Oh, yes, but no. But yes. That's too good. I'm glad you held it in so you could take it all. So I could take it
all in at once. Oh, this episode's going to have an E next to it. Well, we're going to wrap it up. That's what she said again. I have a tendency to be a little inappropriate sometimes just because I'm open with talking about sexual things, guys.
I don't think that was inappropriate. I thought that was comical. It
was quite actually appropriate for what was said.
I just wanted to give you a little bit of the eye roll, not to encourage it too much. Much.
We've come full circle.
We've come full circle. I am to you what you are to Derek.
We have come full circle. Thank you for listening this long into this episode. This is just what our normal conversations are like when we have time to catch up as friend-to-piss. So
you should hang out in Seattle more.
I know. I would love to. thank you guys for writing in with these letters. And, we didn't get to some of the other ones today, but really love your guys' feedback. So keep writing us things. You can email us at ask.letstalkaboutit@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at letstalkaboutit_podcast. We're going to be posting some more things on there. So definitely follow along and comment with thoughts, reflections, questions, comments. Join the conversation.
Let's talk about it. Roger that.
Roger that. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
This podcast is brought to you by Wave Podcast Network. Check out all of our shows, including the Brain Candy Podcast, I Don't Get It, Babes and Babies, Coffee Convos, and Let's Talk About It.